Hi, I'm Chris Haigh and this is the Fiddle channel, and today we're going to have a look at Freight Train. We're going to do a lesson on Freight Train, and we're not talking about the song by Elizabeth Cotten, but the song made famous by Alan Jackson, and it was written originally by Fred Eaglesmith, who is a Canadian singer-songwriter. But Alan Jackson had a hit with this in 2010. I'm going to run through all of the bits that you need to be able to play on the fiddle. And we're going to actually use a kind of a formula for how to approach any country song. So we're going to look at what is the original vocal melody, what are the chords, and is it necessary to learn them, decide whether you need to learn any of the original parts for the intro, the fills, the solo, the outro and so on, what you're going to do for the backing, and finally how can you improvise a solo. And also, although I said finally, you've got to think about who you're going to play this with and how that will alter all of the stuff we've just talked about. Let's start off before the vocal melody with the intro, because it does have a nice guitar intro. So let's just do that. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So that's a nice powerful intro, and obviously if you have a lead guitarist that you're playing with, then he's going to want to do that, or she's going to want to do that. But as is often the case, we're not going to have everyone at our disposal that we would like. So assuming you're playing this with let's say a singing guitarist, then it's probably going to be up to you to play this. So let's just do that intro again, and this time with the backing. So that's a fun intro. You can, if you play it right up at the heel and with 3 down bows, then you're going to make that really strong. And you can also add parallel fifths, which will make it really strong. Now, before we get onto the melody, let's just think about the chord sequence, which in this case is actually very easy. So there's no excuse for not knowing the chords. We've just got 3 chords repeated pretty much through the whole song. G minor, E flat, F and G minor. So that's going to go behind the verse and the chorus and the solo. Right, let's look at the verse melody. When you're learning the verse melody, don't worry too much about the individual details of the notes, because chances are when a line repeats, it's going to be repeated slightly differently with the vocal. So you don't need to phrase everything just as the singer does, but just orienting yourself with the general melody of the vocal is very useful. And then, now let's have a look at the chorus. 1, 2, 3, 4. Baby, which was a diesel locomotive, like a whistling down his head, rushing through your door. Which was a freight train, baby, which was a diesel locomotive, like a whistling down his head, rushing through your door. Freight train, baby, freight train, baby. Freight train, baby. So it may be that you never actually play the vocal line, but I think it's a great idea to learn it anyway, just so you know what you're working around And you could use that as your solo if you were so unimaginative. But anyway, at the end of the chorus we do have this little train sound, which is just done with a B flat on the A string, a G on the D string, and we're going to slide them down. And you may think, how can you slide your first finger down because it's already next to the nut? But you can anyway, just take it right onto the nut. And do that as slow as you like, and there's your freight train going past. So that's the vocal melody. And if you're not going to play the vocal melody, which I assume you're not, then what you're going to do is some kind of backing. So next thing we're going to look at is several alternatives for dealing with those chords. So I'm going to use some pairs of notes, and I do in fact have a video all about 2-note chords and how to work them out. So G minor, the first line we can do B flat over G. For the E flat, a B flat over E flat. For the F, an A over F. And then back to the B flat over G. And notice that we're trying to find pairs which are close to one another. So we want the minimum of movement. Next alternative, a lower one, a G with a B flat below it, followed by a E flat with a B flat below it, followed by a F with an A below it, followed by G with a B flat below it. And then a third and higher alternative, a G on the top and a B flat below, E flat with a G below, F with an A below, and back to the first one again. So for each of these, then you have a whole load of different rhythms that you can do. We'll come to the rhythms in a minute, but another thing you can do is moving from one note pair to the next in a kind of step way. So and the idea of doing this, of not jumping from chord to chord, but of moving from chord to chord through a series of notes, is covered in another video I did called Joined Up Country, and I think you'll find that a very useful technique once you get to grips with it. So let's just go through those three different sets of 2-note chords with the backing. And you will find that as the months and years go by, it'll get quite easy to come up with these note pairs without really having to think about them at all. Initially, you will want to spend some time, each time you do a country song, actually working out and possibly writing down the different options that you've got. So having worked out the 2-note pairs, then you have various alternatives as to how you're going to use them. So there we were just doing long notes, but better to have something more rhythmic. So you might do a kind of a shuffle like this. So that's all separate bows, but you're putting a strong accent on the third of each 4 notes. And we're doing it all down at the heel and very short. So that's a kind of a train feel. You could do the Nashville Shuffle. You could do the Georgia Shuffle. Or you could even do, since this is a train song, you could do the double shuffle. That is something you definitely only do sparingly. You wouldn't want to do that all the way through the tune. Because you've got so many different variations on that, I would think about doing one type on the verse and a different type on the chorus. You could also have a go at chops, and they could be the simple type of chop, or they could be the modern chop. So you've got a whole lot of different alternatives there. Let me just run through a few of those with the backing. Now finally we come to the solo. On the Alan Jackson version you've got the fiddle and the guitar and possibly the pedal steel, I can't remember, trading fairly short solos. But this is a really good sequence for soloing on, and if you get the chance then make your solo as long as possible. I'm going to give you 3 different ways of looking at the solo. So you could do the whole thing using the G minor blues scale. That will work very nicely over all 3 chords in the sequence. So you can just improvise pretty freely on that. And I do have a video on the minor blues scale. Let's just listen to chugging along with that scale. So once you are really familiar with that scale, then a solo through this sequence is pretty effortless. Slightly more interesting and challenging is to use 3 separate blues scales. So the G minor, the E flat major, and the F major. So this makes use of the different chords. It's going to be take a little bit more thought, but it will kind of emphasize what's going on in the background rather than just floating over it. Let's just try a little bit of that. I do suggest that you mix up those 2 different ways of doing it. Do some with the single scale and some with the 3 different scales. And finally, you can use hot licks which go through all 3 different chords. And this gives you the kind of classic extended rock solo, which I really love doing. So if you want a really epic solo, these are the kind of licks to use. So let's start off with just playing the intro, which is a full 4-bar thing, Let's play over all 4 chords. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see that here you're letting the chords do the work, because as the chords change, what you are playing sounds different, because its relationship to the chords is different. But it's obviously a really easy way of dealing with these chords. Another thing you can do, that is a really simple thing, only 2 notes. This is the Georgia Shuffle, where all of the accents are going in the same direction. And let's hear that changing through the chords. 1, 2, 3, 4. Etc. And incidentally, when you play these, don't, I think it's important how you look. I tend to look as if I'm doing the ironing when I play solos, and that's not the best approach. The best approach is to look agonized and look as if you're struggling against the elements, as if you're doing magic on the violin. So screw your face up, throw your hair in the air. And people will be a lot more impressed, even though they're hearing exactly the same as the ironing board look. Next one we've got, this is one I call the 1-2-4 lick, and I've done a video on that. Very simple. And a variation on that. Here's one with parallel fifths. And finally one that actually moves through the 4 chords. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we started off with an arpeggio descending, B flat, G, D. And we're slurring 3 notes to the bow. And we're moving on to B flat, G, E flat. Moving on to F, C, A, F. And notice that the pattern changes just before the chord changes. Let's just go through that one with the chords. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, by stringing all these together, you've got solo in itself. You wouldn't want to do a whole load of these kind of licks straight one after the other. So mix it in with some kind of general shuffling and some stuff on the pentatonic and blues scales. But let me give you each of these licks I've just shown you in one go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, you get the idea. This is just a random selection of epic licks that you can use on a solo like this. I hope you enjoyed this. I do suggest that you try this approach of the 6 different things to learn on each new country song that you approach. If you would like a copy of the dots for this, then do subscribe and send me an email. If you would like a zip file with every one of my PDFs, which is over 350 of them, then do join me on Patreon. And remember, it's Patreon that allows me to keep producing all of these videos. Thank you for watching. I will play you out with another epic solo. See you soon.
Thank you.